Hi everybody, it's Carolyn here again to share another channeled message, but this time I'm with Celeste again. And for those of you who might remember, we have done another video before. It was our first one on a preview to 2019. And this time we're coming back to do another channeled message. And we both did the channel, and it's very interesting because they're significant channels and yet there's some similarities, and it's about processing past lives. And so if you don't know your past lives, don't stop the video because it speaks to this as well. And so what we're going to do is we're going to share our channels, and then we're going to talk about them, and we're going to give you some of our experiences as well as what we've seen with other people. So with that said, Celeste, hello.
Hi, everybody.
And
I'm so happy to be sharing this information with you. I feel like it's incredibly relevant to all of us, especially right now, right before we are entering into 2019.
Very much so. And so just as a quick aside, since this is the second video we've done, do you want to just do another quick introduction to yourself? And then pretty soon we'll be doing so many of these, people will get used to us.
Sure. So I am a therapist, an intuitive empath, a channel, and an artist. And I connected with Carolyn, oh my gosh, quite a few months ago. And we just really resonated. And we both channel higher beings, and that really connected us. And so, yeah, so here we are.
Yeah, let's go ahead. Celeste is going to share her channel first.
Okay, so hold on. Let me get my glasses on. Okay, so here we go. Dear ones, the topic of processing past lives is a good one, considering how relevant it is to the current state of those awakening on your planet. Now more than ever, it is time to leave the karmic wheel behind and step into an all-new consciousness experience of the new human. There is no longer a need for the new human to process karma via reincarnation. Not to say that reincarnation is over, just that the karmic wheel process is no longer necessary. As you ascend to 5D and beyond, you will become and experience being the master creators you really are. So how does this relate to past lives and the ascension process? We say, in order to ascend to 5D and beyond, you must release the traumas of all your traumatic past lives. Please note, not all of your past lives were traumatic. Many were, however, and these are the ones you've been processing over the past few years and currently. Usually, processing of past lives could take a lifetime or plural lifetimes. In the past few years, especially in 2018, this process has sped up in order to prepare you for the new paradigm starting in your 2019. Because of this speeding up, many of you are experiencing the processing of past lives in multiple of ways, even more somatic ways. Not only are many of you processing via your dreams, since this is an easier and quicker way to do so, but you're also experiencing somatic complaints now more than ever. For example, you may have woken up with a pain in your back with no precipitating event to explain it. This pain may last a few moments or a few months. This is a releasing of a lifetime where you were speared in the back by an enemy and died unexpectedly. Any of the ascension symptoms listed in the many articles circulating amongst you can be and probably are related to past life traumas. Many of you have gone to medical providers only to be told there's nothing medically wrong. It can be very helpful for those of you awakening to consider that when you are feeling poorly or experiencing pain or illness, that this is in fact a releasing of past life traumas in preparation for the next step in your evolution. With this knowing can come a surrender to this process, which ultimately will lead to an easing of the process as well. Now more than ever, self-care, meditation, and focusing on breathing can be valuable in easing this necessary process in your ascension journey. Suffering is no longer the name of the game. Some of you will find it easier than others to notice, allow, and release past traumas during this process. Remember, your journey is your own, and all is in divine timing. Also remember, you are never alone because we are always with you. Ask us for support and guidance, and know you have it. Why? Because we love you, we are you, and you are us, the angelic council on high. There we go.
All right, that's fantastic. So do you want to go ahead and make a couple comments first on what you kind of feel about this, or any?
Yes. So I feel that, or what I was left with after I channeled this message, is that we're always processing past lives. In every lifetime, we're processing past lives. Oftentimes, people will have, maybe scars or birthmarks on their bodies from past lives. They might have phobias. For example, like I'm claustrophobic, and I know that it's related to a past life. So I feel that we're always processing past lives, but it could take lifetimes to process a traumatic past life. That's changing now. And I feel for me that it's really sped up, if that makes sense.
Oh, totally. And I was just thinking as you were talking about how, and I'm thinking of family and friends and probably even myself, but that have little habits or things that they're, well, like your claustrophobia, okay? Like you don't understand it. Why in the world would that even be?
Right.
Things that aren't related to something that happened in this life. Why do you come in with those things? Right. But now it makes sense.
Yeah, I really feel that it's because we're continually processing these traumatic past lives, and the old paradigm, it was that it just took a long, long time.
Yes, and now, since it's speeding up, I feel that, and you read about people all the time, if you read their comments on Facebook, etc., the pain that they're having and the suffering they're going through, whether it's emotional or physical, we're probably just all of a sudden it's all lumped together, what we haven't cleared out previously, and now it's happening because it's an important time for this to occur.
Right. I feel that in order for us to move forward into this new paradigm that is coming, starting in 2019, it's that we really have to heal and let go of whatever those, and I also want to kind of throw this in, since I'm a mental health therapist, that there's traumas from this lifetime as well that need to be addressed.
Yeah, we get that lumped together too. So
yes. It's just trauma in general. Anything that has really, become almost like this baggage that we're just kind of carrying behind us, we have to let all of that go in order to move forward.
Yes. And a point I want to make too is there's conversation, and you and I have had this conversation before about whether past lives are even relevant, and they don't matter because we're just moving forward. I mean, there is conversation out there about, well, they don't matter. Yeah. And I actually, before all this started happening with, which I'll talk about later, the sessions that I have with folks, and then some of the things with us, they do matter. They're clearing it. But what doesn't necessarily matter, and I think my channel is going to speak a little bit to this, is you don't have to be aware and understand the full detail of that life. You may never know about it. Some of us will, right? And we'll talk about that later. But the point is I think that's what they're talking about, is it's not important to have to understand it in detail to process it bodily and emotionally, because it's just going to happen anyway, right?
Exactly. I totally agree with you. It is happening anyway. Even to those folks who, those of us who feel like we're awakening, and we look around and we think, oh, they're not awakening. They're still stuck. They're still processing all of this as well. They just aren't aware of it like we might be.
That's totally right. And I think this is a really good conversation to maybe have right here, because when we're in the awakened state and we're talking to other awakened individuals going through the process, there is this part of us that feels like, and I've gone through this, where it's like, not that we're better, but we're different. We're at a different level. They're not going through that. And what I've realized on this journey is that is not true. They're still going through some of the things that we're going through, but they're not conscious of it. I think truly part of the difference is when you go through awakening, you're conscious of this stuff. You start becoming that way. And being able to connect it and say, oh, whereas it's more like folks that haven't awakened, they're more in a cloud with it happening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, does that make sense?
Yes, that makes absolute sense.
And
yeah.
Maybe this is a good point for me to just mention my friend that we were talking about earlier. Should I throw that out?
Yeah, throw that out. That's interesting.
Well, because I have a very good friend who I play tennis with regularly, and he's a scientist and very respectful of my situation that I've given him some information on as far as the whole awakening piece and the work that I do, and which is very new to him because I haven't done this work for the rest of my life, and he's known me before this awakening. Anyway, point is he starts talking to me about these dreams he's starting to have, where he's having battles, he's saving people, he's processing like injuries in his dream. And all of a sudden I realized, to your point, Celeste, earlier, is that, oh my gosh, first, he's not going through the awakening process in the way that we are,
right. In a conscious way.
Thank you. That's a good way to say it. In a conscious way. But he's processing the same stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then secondarily, he's not aware of this. It's not making sense to him. He just thinks it's a dream. But the thing is, I honestly think the result is the same. I mean, ultimately, the body is doing its thing. So I thought that was really interesting. And that just actually happened today in a conversation I had just before our little meeting here.
So it is happening to everybody in some form or another. And I don't know if it's okay. I wanted to kind of point out that the dream time is probably, I think, the easiest way for people to process past life traumas is during their dream state.
I would agree completely. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And in fact, that kind of takes us into another conversation, which I won't do. Maybe that's another video, but actually my channel speaks to part of that is, don't not watch this video because you don't remember a past life. We've all had them, whether we're old souls or, there are newer souls too. We've all had some past lives, regardless of where we've been, whether it's been on Earth, and that's, again, another conversation, but we have, life is not easy and simple, so we have to process through that so we can continue to ascend and gain a higher vibration. So,
right.
Anyway, do you want to, maybe we'll wait and share our personal experiences after I read mine? Does that make sense?
Read yours. It's super interesting, so.
Yeah, and I think what you guys will find in listening to this is, at least from what I can see, there's similarities. And by the way, I will say, what is fascinating with ours, Celeste, is they both groups speak so differently, and I find it fascinating. And so now we move into this very, 1600s kind of speak, angelic poetry. I don't know. So here we go. This is the LightKeepers, as many of you are familiar with.
Okay.
It is, we say this day, you will find more lives that will blow your mind. No, you have not lived just this one, for many have come in your way of this time to see. Past lives are processing through many now to be. For why, you say, must it be that so many are feeling it even if they do not see and understand a life they had, but yet are feeling something at hand? And we say, we explain this now for those of you who know by far and how some of the lives that you have lived, and others of you who have never begun to understand your lives. We explain it to all of you. For those of you who see it now, past lives you understand, and how. Be prepared if you have not before to feel the physical feelings and more, particularly of those of stress and strife, where you learned greater lessons of life. For as these lives come to you, know these are the most important ones for you to learn and how. And when you process it through your mind, even though you can't remember it too, eventually comes the physical too. For often the body was involved in that life too. And when you feel those times so true, the strange emotions that somehow you are not you, bodily pains and aches we say, look back to the past lives that you know today. For we say to sit and imagine them, Once you understand one of your past lives too, even though you do not remember it in your mind, your soul has a deep inside. Imagination is all it takes. Just sit in quietude and let your heart make again that life in your mind, we say, for you will feel it and process it, oh yes, today. For it is an important time to rid it all or understand how you lived it tall. Many times the lives are ones where you will not have physical symptoms today or emotions that we say. However, often it will be where you will again experience in the last understanding and clearing too of what you carried forward this day, of that life, oh yes, in your way. So know and see it is so true, the clearing of what was your bodily due back in that life. For often we say it was difficulty with the body at that time. So you may feel, yes, we say physical symptoms, but know you are clearing today to make yourself lighter, yes, in your way, so that you may continue to ascend in your day. For it is about letting go of not just what you know of today, but all of what your cells carried forward in your way. For this too, we say, is a way that you process through all of the lives that you've had, bringing forward the most important ones for you to know in this lifetime again. For they are often signs, we say, where you are moving forward in the day. But understand it is so true. We ask you, oh, so often too. When these things come in your way, we find sitting in quietude and letting it go and processing it is fine. Releasing in the full moon, we say, as we have told you at other times, creating a ceremony and taking in that life and making it yours too. Even the difficult times, we say, knowing you have learned from it for this life today. Releasing to the winds, oh yes, the things that no longer serve you in your day, and keeping the things you wish in time. Knowing that the totality of your lives and all that was stress and strife and beauty too is part of what makes you, you. And for those of you who have in time never remembered a past life at all, we find that you can trace back, oh yes, we say, some of the ascension symptoms that you are feeling today. So know that even though you do not know why these feelings come and go, understand it intellectually, it is true, for the deeper of your soul knows it too, that often you are clearing in time pieces of past lives that have found their way to this time. And it is not in your way, many of you, to even know these lives, nor is it important to for your journey forward, we say. But the body still will recognize it too, for the cells have brought forward so much too. The body itself is a vehicle, we say, that you travel in for your soul journeys, oh yes, today. It has a mind and life and truly has remembrances of its own, bringing forward the body, even though you receive a new one each lifetime, has its own memories deep within the cells, we say. So we wish for you to know in time that all are processing past lives of the divine, of which you are, oh yes, we say, preparing for the great ascension today. A higher vibratory version of you is coming closer. Oh yes, it is true. Slowly in time as you make your way, clearing out these physical symptoms, we say. Again, know that it is so true. Many of you will have past lives that you remember vividly too. And along come the physical signs and emotional ones to unwind. Others of you will not remember too, but many of these physical symptoms that you are feeling are your due to make you lighter. Oh yes, we say. A clear vessel for the divine today. Moving forward, oh yes, and not taking any more of the baggage with you ever again in time. We leave you in light and love this day, now and forevermore. So,
wow. So,
wow.
Incredibly complimentary. I think both of our channels complement each other. And
right.
Yes, I love, if you don't mind, I'm going to jump in because I'm super excited about some of the things that the LightKeepers shared. I really love the piece about using the full moon to release.
Yes.
And I feel that you can do this even if you don't know your past lives.
Completely. Absolutely. And I think a lot of people, right, a lot of people will be saying, well, I don't know any of this. I don't know any of these past lives. Well, you're experiencing the physical symptoms, so you can use that as your kind of your platform,
Yes.
I think. And using what they said was that imagination, because when we sit in meditation, so much can come to us. I mean, you can actually discover why maybe you're having some of these physical symptoms. And even if you don't, it's an opportunity for clearing at the full moon.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So something that I also find very intriguing, and of course I don't have any answers for this, but they talk about this is, you think, okay, well, I get a new body each time, right?
Right.
Why would I experience physical symptoms? Well, they talk about the cells have remembrance, your cells. So like, and I don't understand how that all works its way out, but when your soul, you incarnate, somehow there is that carrying forward. And maybe that's how, I don't know that, I don't want to say karma, but there is a bodily connection though. And I think that's what I found so fascinating, carrying it forward. It's just not memories,
Right.
memories.
That could also explain why sometimes people have like this huge birthmark. It's, because I see people with birthmarks, right? And some of my clients, and I wonder if all it is a birthmark, but I know that could be a sign of some kind of past life trauma.
Exactly. And that gets us into this conversation about what I've been seeing with some of my clients, not just some, a whole heck of a lot of clients. And I'm very fascinated by this, and it ties to these past lives, where what is uncovered, what they bring to the session that they want to work on, whether it be physical or relational or emotional kinds of situations.
Right.
Oh my gosh, all the channeling that comes through with that ties it back to a past life. So oftentimes what we're doing, and we don't consciously know this unless we somehow end up fortunate enough to, have a past life figured out, right? Is that we oftentimes, with the same or similar some of the same people, play out that same scenario or that same life, but in a different way. But very common kinds of things going on because we're trying to work through that again. So that's tied to this, but and so when the channel information comes through, it basically says, here's a past life. This is why all this physical stuff's happening to you.
Right.
In addition to why you're with the people you're with in this lifetime. And here's who maybe they were. So I find that to be incredibly fascinating part of this whole past life processing. And my cat is going to join us. Okay. So, oh my Lord. I knew this was going to happen. So here he is. Can you see him? He says,
I can. He's so lovely.
Lovely. So everyone, you can just know this is my cat Hiroshi, and I will continue on now.
It's funny because my cat's laying here right next to me. Every time I do any kind of videos, she shows up and joins me.
Yes, and for those of you, just as a quick aside, it's when you start talking to other people who are going through awakening and you start high-vibing with them, your animals, particular cats, may start showing up in your lap. So anyway, so kind of back to that part, though. Do you want to talk a little bit about, and then maybe we close out, but talk a little bit about your experiences yourself with our past lives. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. So the first thing that I wanted to share is that I do a lot of the processing of my past lives during my dream time. And especially over the last 3 months, I've noticed that my dreams, not necessarily nightmares, but very unsettling. Just and I can have multiple dreams during the night. My cat, and I suspect that this is on purpose, where she will come and wake me up, and then I'll fall back asleep and I'll have another dream processing something else. And this goes on a lot, to the point where I think, especially this past month, I've been exhausted. And but I also am fully aware that this is what I'm doing. I'm really trying to process as much as possible during my dream time. But I've also experienced the physical symptoms of, past life trauma, for example. And we've talked about this before, that about a month ago, my left shoulder was really, it was hurting me. And it's not like I did anything. It just, like, one day I woke up and I realized my shoulder's really hurting. And normally I don't think I'm in my body as much as I should be. And so I just kind of ignored it. But it lasted long enough for me to really start paying attention. And I could be sitting here on the couch, talking to a friend, and all of a sudden I get these deep stabbing pains in my shoulder. And I think if it's okay to mention that you and I, our discussions with each other, realize that we have shared multiple past lives, but one in particular during the Spanish Inquisition, where we were both tortured and executed. And part of that process, I think, was that we were, what did you call it?
Drawn.
Being drawn.
They call it drawn and quartered, but we weren't. That's just going to get real deep.
I think we were quartered, but definitely where
we were tortured. We were tortured.
Yes. And so.
And we know a lot about these lives, very specific details, but we're giving you just some of the pieces of this.
Yeah, just a little glimpse of how. So this random pain that there was no precipitating event that caused it. All of a sudden, it was like, oh, wait a second. It's related to that traumatic past life.
Exactly. And just since we're on that topic, just for those of you who are listening to this, I'm actually processing that past life right now and have had literally in the last 2 days, I think Celeste, I mentioned within 30 minutes time.
Yeah.
Almost like, and this is going to sound weird, like, and again, I did nothing I was just walking down the hallway in one case where I felt like somebody was actually doing something to me, like my body was processing the entire left side of what had happened to me. And I had been told in a previous, which is real interesting, last August, that I had had a traumatic life and my left side was really damaged. That led us to this whole Toledo life, and that's a whole nother conversation. But anyway, point is now all of a sudden my body's starting to process out the pain of the left side, the torture that I had, in ways that, I haven't done anything to make that happen. And yet I'm having these same kind of pains where, literally I could just sit right here and something could happen and I would have done nothing.
Yeah.
So
see, my pain was like a month ago, something like that. I can't even remember, but it lasted for a really long time, while yours has only lasted how many days? Well,
it's just started a few days ago. It is my hope that I will be done after, who knows though, because I just had something happen today. So it's an odd, I think we're giving people a lot of opportunity to think about how they are processing past lives, because there's so many, I think, different ways that it can happen. And to your point about the dream state, what I would say, and again, this is always advice that comes through. Hold on, my cat is now scratching me. We're putting him down. That's why dream journals are so important. And particularly at this time, like those of you who are sitting here saying, well, I don't have any past lives. I don't know any. But I bet you're probably dreaming, potentially, remembering some of those. Start doing a dream journal. Start studying those. Spend some time with that information. Spend some time, like they say in my channel, meditating on some of this if you really want to feel it. But just know that I think one of the biggest things out of this is we process so much emotional pain and so much physical pain during the awakening. And if you don't understand it, know that it's for a purpose. And it is so often past life oriented. And again, like Celeste, you said, you have current stuff for processing too, but think of all those past lives we've had.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a reason for it. And so if we could not go into the fear, that's the piece that came through in my channel. I was left with this idea that the fear, and especially about, there's something wrong with me. and you know, I'm not saying that there might not be something medically wrong, and obviously always go and talk to your medical provider, but also know that if the medical provider says there's nothing wrong with you, it's probably past life related, and you are just clearing and releasing and processing past life traumas.
Exactly.
And there's a purpose for it.
Exactly. And one thing I would say, and I know that your channel mentioned this at the end, and this is such an important piece, is even engage your angels and your guides, your spirit support, because they're there all around us, whether you hear them or not, whether you're able to communicate with them or not. You know, some of you do regularly. Others of you are wondering, well, I don't hear them. They're there. It doesn't matter. Talk to them and ask specifically for help. Do it with gratitude. Something I do, I like, let's say with the pain in my chest that I had today, you know, I'm like, okay, angels, I need your help. Please help take that pain away for me. And I say, thank you. So I just talk to him like a regular person. I ask him for help, and literally I get help. So I would say to you, there's no formal way to do that. Just, you know, be a friend and form a partnership and thank them in advance. Gratitude is so important, and really working with them, continuing forward. So I think you can find that even though we're going to have to feel those physical situations because they have to exude out of our body and our cells, I think they can assist us in this. I have found that to be. So try that.
Absolutely. Yeah, and self-care, right?
Yeah.
So taking those salt baths, meditating, spending time in nature, getting plenty of rest.
Because they talk so much, and I think they may have mentioned this in both of ours, this vessel that we have, this is more than just this body. I mean, that's why we need to care for it and take care of it. And the more we care for ourselves during this ascension process and awakening process, the more, I would say, ease of the journey we will have. That includes, and not to get on my soapbox, but, you know, they talk about this all the time, diet, drinking plenty of water, more than you drink, you know, in the past as you go through awakening. Exercise, even walking, okay, that's exercise, just getting up and doing something. Taking care of yourself, salt baths, getting enough sleep. It goes on and on, right?
Yeah.
But it's our vessel, and it's so important during this time as we're purging a lot of this information, as we're experiencing, you know, bringing in more energy and, you know, ascending. So,
yeah.
So
it's been awesome, Carolyn. Thank you so much for having me on.
Absolutely. And to everybody out there, thank you for joining us. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below, and Celeste and I will take a look at them and get back with you. And we plan on doing this again. Who knows what the topic will be? But again, we thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you in the next video.